If recent history has taught me anything, it's that there's rarely a straight line from one goal in life to the next. That's especially true since 2018, the years that I've lived as an amputee. When, in October of that year, I decided to electively amputate my right leg below the knee, the neurological condition that I'd lived with for so long took a back seat, and I began to explore this small slice of Colorado using my first prosthetic. I wanted to show the world that I was more than the struggles I'd been through, and that my worst days were behind me. I was preparing for my triumph. I had no idea that after a year of exercising my newfound mobility, my left leg would begin to experience similar symptoms, and I'd have to do it all over again. 2 steps forward and 1 step back. It's a pattern that I've come to know very well. Recently, I was sitting at the bar, describing the idea to a friend of being able to see a place off in the distance, and yet know that there were many physical barriers between you and it. A place that was formerly easy to go, now made inaccessible. And for me, that sensation was almost painful. While my wheelchair allowed me to get out and see more, I knew that was merely an ounce of prevention. What I needed was a pound of the cure. Growing up, the outdoors was my playground. I built dirt castles, splashed in the creek, and explored the southeast by foot and canoe. When I moved up north, I became an avid city cyclist, tracing almost every line of Chicago's city grid on bike. And it was a cycling accident that started it all. Recently, I came to the realization that a sport I'd taken up for my health caused a life-altering injury. Looking back through that lens, when I began medically dealing with the condition that had hurt me for so long, I vowed never to let my disability take any of those opportunities away from me or my kid. I could see a future where the outdoors I loved so much were once again accessible, and my passion for human-powered transport was satisfied. The truth is, it's rarely that straightforward. While I've achieved what many would call an inspirational life, being the subject of multiple TV and print interviews, succeeding professionally for myself, and managing to raise sizable amounts for charity, I have to stop any time that my legs don't fit properly and engage in a process that takes multiple months to regain my health and well-being. As my residual limb changes shape, or more likely as components wear out, I have to be fit for new prosthetic legs. This is a time-consuming, frustrating process, and it's one that I have to repeat annually, or at the very least, every couple of years. This chapter began roughly 2 years ago, when I started experiencing recurrent pain and persistent falls due to poorly fitting sockets. Unfortunately, that process never resulted in the delivery of a final product, often due to business or managerial changes at the clinics where I was being treated. I've lost count of how many prosthetics clinics where I've been a patient and they've sold to a national investment fund under the promise of better care for their patients. Often, there's little in those deals that benefit the patients. The owners of the clinic get a financial windfall, and we, in return, experience degraded care. Now, I'm sure most of you watching this have never worn prosthetics, but you can liken it to a new pair of shoes times 10. Although I wouldn't say it's quite the same because no part of my body can actually make contact with the floor. You see, my leg ends where the metal begins. And without a proper fitting set of prosthetics, it's like walking on stilts. This process, and the fact that it often takes months, is something that I've discussed with other amputees, but never here on this channel. And I'm slowly realizing that if I want to be an advocate for change, I need to discuss it with everybody. I said earlier that it's like purchasing a pair of shoes, but that's not entirely true. It doesn't take months to acquire a pair of shoes, and they certainly don't cost thousands of dollars even after insurance. And so even if I have to do this every couple of years, it's not unlike replacing a nice pair of leather shoes, although it comes with much greater expense. After several false starts with other clinics that were unable to fit me, I finally landed at the newly formed University of Colorado Center for Prosthetics. My first appointment was in December, and I finally received my check sockets, the test ones that I'm wearing now, in late February. The process of approval from insurance is ongoing and could take up to 90 days from now. I held off on this video because I don't have a tidy conclusion. But the fact is, I'm 3 months in and there's no conclusion in sight. I can walk and do low impact sports like cycling, but I'm ultimately in a holding pattern until my definitive sockets are made because these are fragile and unable to be repaired if I damage them. Hopefully this video is an appropriate update and explains why I've been absent from the channel for weeks at a time. It's been an exhausting, frustrating process that requires a lot of me personally, and hopefully the footage that we were able to capture in that time explains some of the process that you might not have been familiar with. Once again, thank you so much for watching. Stay tuned because I have a few tutorials on DaVinci Resolve coming soon, and I hope you always stay curious.